Well, let's ask one of the many 2024 hopefuls challenging him for the Republican nomination, former mayor of Cranston, Rhode Island, and 2024 Republican candidate for president, Steve Laffey. Also with us are a special guest today, former New York Congressman and FBI Special Agent Michael Grimm, as well as Director of Senior Initiatives at Freedom Works and Foundation, Freedom Works Foundation, Clara Delvillar. I apologize, a little rusty here getting on the set. Steve, what do you make of this recording and this tape? Does it undermine the president's claim that he declassified all of these documents before leaving office?
It's damning, and as I've said, I was the first person to run against Donald Trump, the first person to say he needs to get out of the race, and I think he's going to jail for a long time. He needs to get out of the race so the country can now get to normal things like trying to figure out how to put back the middle class. And yes, his reactions to this show his narcissism. And by the way, who's laughing with him about secret documents? At the end, who's getting the cokes? The whole thing is now at the point where it's my party, and the reaction of other people running for president is bizarre. They want to pardon him. They don't want, Trump is calling Jack Smith deranged. Mm-hmm. Jack Smith's anything but deranged. He just came back from The Hague. He's put murderers in jail. I wouldn't want to face the guy. Trump needs to get out of the race and get out now so we can focus on the real problems in America.
Michael, do you agree with that statement?
Well, not at all. First of all, the Democrats use these trumped up, no pun intended, charges over and over again. Look at the New York DA. That's bogus. A lot of they're going after Trump because they know he's the front runner. And I understand, with all due respect to our guest here, that's his opponent. So you have to do what you have to do to try to win. But the truth is, it's a Hail Mary pass. Donald Trump's not going to get out of the race. And what that would do, let's forget Donald Trump for a second. Mm-hmm. That would set such a bad precedent, because then the Democrats would just criminalize every strong opponent, which is what they're doing here, but they would continue to do it if they see success. So I think that's absolutely wrong. I think Donald Trump stays in the race. I think he wins the primary, hands down.
Clara, do you want to jump in on this? What do you think of this? Should he get out of the race?
Well, certainly the point made here that the scales of justice are grossly misguided when you look at the Biden family issues and the Trump allegations here. But I do think that there will be a tricky road ahead for President Trump. Former President Trump has some issues here that he's going to have to deal with, and I think the path ahead will continue to be bumpy. So I'm a little bit concerned about how this really weighs in on the Republican Party.
So former President Trump adamantly denying any wrongdoing. He writing this in part that the deranged special prosecutor Jack Smith, working in conjunction with the DOJ and FBI, illegally leaked and spun a tape and transcript of me, which is actually an exoneration rather than what they would have you believe. This continuing witch hunt is another election interference scam. They are cheaters and thugs. Are these the sort of issues that, Michael, that should be dominating right now? Should we not be moving forward and looking at some of the issues and with the economy and crime and everything?
Well, you're 100% right if we had an honest media, but the honest media doesn't do that. Look at how they tanked the story on the laptop, right? Because they were dishonest about it, but they don't want to speak about the issues. Because let's just be very clear. Let's be frank about this. If we spoke about the open border, if we spoke about crime, if we spoke about inflation, if we spoke about all the myriad of things that are wrong under the Biden administration, Joe Biden wouldn't have a chance ever of winning the presidency again. So that's why they're not going to make this about the issues, regardless of whether President Trump is in the news or not.
Mm-hmm. Steve, I want to get your reaction to that.
Yes, listen, having no standard is not the answer. Hunter Biden, the other cases are all other cases. I can understand that. But in this particular case, we have it on videotape. President Trump, by the way, the biggest lie of all time is he can declassify whatever he wants. He cannot. That stuff goes to the archives. All of this stuff, by the way, he had a year to return the stuff. This is beyond to have people like Ramaswamy saying they're going to pardon him, and Vice President Pence, and what I call the mini Trumps and the sycophants who are running, who want to apologize for this behavior. President Trump has been trying to overturn the election of 2020 in front of 60 judges. He's failed. He's been convicted in a civil court of sexual abuse. We don't have any other candidates who have been convicted of sexual abuse. This is not going to go well in the general election. And now you have this indictment which will continue all the way through at least August, September, October, and take away from one of the real issues, how the middle class has been destroyed by the Federal Reserve, by the elites over the last 20 and 30 years, and that has to be fixed. That's what I'd rather talk about than this.
But no one's going to cover it if you do. I mean, that's the point here, is that the mainstream media hasn't covered it. They won't cover it because that will hurt Joe Biden. They're in the tank from. I mean, do you agree with me on that one at least?
I completely agree. I think this is a Trump entertainment parade for the media. They aren't covering the real issues. They don't want to cover real issues. And I think we're at a disadvantage at this stage, for sure, until somehow we overcome this obstacle.
But regardless of what happens, again, even if Trump were to say tomorrow, I'm out of the race, do you really think that all of a sudden CNN, MSNBC, and all of the establishment media is suddenly going to say, oh, let's focus on the Biden crime family. Let's focus on the fact that inflation is at an all-time high and that people can't afford to put food on the table and that people are worse off today than they were when Biden took office and at the borders of disaster in Afghanistan and on and on and on and on. They're never going to do that. So this isn't about Donald Trump. It's about a corrupt media and unfortunately a DOJ that's been weaponized against him and also weaponized to protect the Biden crime family.
Yeah, and former President Trump, he did take direct aim at President Biden during his speech in South Carolina yesterday. Here's what he had to say about Biden economics. Watch.
I will end the disaster known as Bidenomics. He doesn't even know. 2 weeks ago, they used the term. He said, what is that? Now he likes the term, I guess. You know what it means? It means destruction for our company. That's destruction for our country.
All right, so Steve, if you're the Republican nominee, what's your vision of the economy look like?
One, it would be, what's happening here is that there's lots of media folks. And two, mine is on stevelaffey.com. I've got a whole plan to fix Social Security to help the middle class. We have President Trump and Ron DeSantis saying they won't touch it. It's a $65 trillion problem. It has to be modernized so that we get young people to actually get it. We've got to change the Federal Reserve to only have one mandate. That's inflation at zero. All the members of the Federal Reserve should simply resign. They have failed they're outside 2 standard deviations. They destroyed the middle class in the last several years. But back to Trump, we as fiscal conservatives were happy with $8 trillion of debt in 4 years when we went after President Obama for $8 trillion in 8 years. That doesn't stick with me. The corrupt PPP program under President Trump, that never should have been signed. It was agreed to by all the Republicans in the U.S. Senate. All. We have to stop this. And we've got to get back to the programs that I have on my website that will fix this for the middle class, because they're the ones suffering. They're the ones who can't pay the extra $4,000 in energy costs. And what did Trump do? And those guys, they sent them $1,400. They caused them $8,000 of course. They lowered their real earnings. This is why I'm running. I'm a financial expert. This is what I know. This is what I do. This is why I need to be the president of the United States.
All right, we'll leave it there. Steve Laffey, thank you so much for joining us. Michael and Claire, they're going to be with us throughout the rest of the show.